Hi everyone, it is April from Getting Hogo With It. I have a beautiful, big, huge haul to share with you, so let's get into it. This haul is somewhat unexpected. Not the fact that I bought books, because that's nothing new for me, but there's a lot of genres in here that I don't usually buy, that I don't usually read, that I am interested in reading some more. So for example, we're going to start with some romance books that I got and contemporary books as well. The first is a romance book called Get a Life, Chloe Brown. I found this at a Value Village, and I mean, everyone is reading this right now on BookTube, and it just sounds like a lot of fun to me. This is written by Talia Hibbert, who is a Black British author, and this is a romance about Chloe Brown, who nearly dies or has like a brush with death, and she decides for herself that she needs to sort out her life and get some priorities straight, and she has all of these things on a to-do list for herself. And while she's going through that to-do list, she meets a guy who ends up being a bit of a handyman. It sounds like a lot of fun. I do find that on my shelves, something that I am conscious of, I am trying to read more Black authors. As you know, I want to read more diversely as a whole. But I don't have a lot of joyful stories about the Black experience from Black authors. And so when I saw this, and it's gotten such good reviews on YouTube, I was like, you know what? It's time to give that a try. So Get a Life, Chloe Brown. And another thing before I move on, I know a lot of the time I tend to poo-poo on romance, but what I'm usually poo-pooing is books where I had no indication that there was going to be a romance, and then that takes over, because I'm sometimes in the mood to read like a Bridget Jones's Diary or what have you. So when I am, I'll have Get a Life, Chloe Brown. Okay, this is going to be a long video. Let's read the first line. Okay, acknowledgements, prologue. Once upon a time, Chloe Brown died. I think that's a good, solid first line. I think it might be a 5-star first line. The next book, I think many of you will be very happy to know I picked up. It is not romance, it is contemporary. It is Beartown by Fredrik Backman, another steal at a Value Village. I couldn't believe that I came across this in really beautiful condition. This follows a hockey town. Where is this hockey town? I am not sure where it is. It could certainly be in Canada, because Canada is like a hockey country. In this little hockey town, one of the girls at a high school, I believe, is raped by a star athlete on the hockey team, and it divides the town, and people have take different sides and have different perspectives. I'm very curious what a man is going to say about that. I think that's interesting to me. So I'm interested in reading this for sure. I've heard amazing things about this. Let's read the first line of Beartown. Okay. Late one evening toward the end of March, a teenager picked up a double-barreled shotgun, walked into the forest, put the gun to someone else's forehead, and pulled the trigger. That is a 5-star first line. Whoa, I didn't expect that. Whoa, Fredrik. I've only read A Man Called Ove by him, and I just felt okay about it, if I'm being honest. But that line, wow. Okay, and here is another romance book that I picked up. It's called One Day in December, and I specifically picked this up because I like to read Christmassy things. Moreover, I do feel very romancy in December because my anniversary with Barry is in December. We got married on December 12th. It'll be our 5-year anniversary. You don't need to know all of that. All that to say, I think I'll be totally in the mood for something like this December. So this follows a girl who sees a guy on a bus and she's like instantly attracted to him. She feels this instant connection with him, and he gets off the bus and she, never sees him for many years until one of her best friends is introducing her new boyfriend to the group, and it's that guy. So I'm imagining this is a bit of a love triangle, and I am, for some reason, all for it. So let us read the first line of One Day in December 2008, December 21st. Lori. It's a wonder everyone who uses public transport in winter doesn't keel over and die of germ overload. It's not a 5-star first line, but it does sound like a lot of fun, and I really think I'm going to read it this December and just enjoy. So now, shall we majorly switch gears, like 100% switch gears into scary books? I only have 2 for you here. Who am I? I have like more contemporary than scary. I mean, the first book is a book that Penguin Random House Canada kindly sent my way. I was so happy when this arrived. It is The Silence of the White City by Eva Garcia Sanz. This is meant to be a terrifying, like Nordic noir kind of vibe. This follows a little town called Vitoria, and there is a serial killer there just killing off the people who live in this town, where I don't think this kind of thing has ever happened before. And he's like posing them in very strange ways. And then we follow a detective trying to figure out what is going on. This is the first in a trilogy, and the whole thing has already been published. I don't know what the original language is. I think it's originally Spanish. And the first has just been translated. The second is going to be coming out in February of 2021, I think. So this is the first. Abby over at Crime by the Book like adored this to the point that she was nervous about writing a review for it that would be good enough to show, like, that it showed how much she adored this book. I just think it sounds fantastic. Yeah, so let's read the first line of The Silence of the White City. Prologue, Vitoria, August 2016. The TV crews were obsessed with hounding my old friends in the quadrilla. That's not a 5-star first line. I still am very eager to read it. Okay. Next is a book that I got off of my Amazon wish list. I was so excited. This is The Cutting Season by Attica Locke. This will be my first Attica Locke, who is a Black thriller writer. She writes a lot of thrillers or a lot of crime stories. And for some reason, I want to start here. She has a whole series, a detective series that I also want to jump into. But I think this is where I want to start. It's got mystery and also historical fiction, and these two things meet together. So this follows a woman named Karen Gray who manages a plantation, an antebellum plantation turned tourist attraction. Very recently, a corporation has bought the sugar fields that are very close by to this plantation, and a migrant worker is found dead on the plantation property. Now, the police obviously get involved, but she thinks they're going down the wrong path, so she gets herself involved. In the meantime, she also starts uncovering another murder that happened during slavery, the disappearance of a former slave. It sounds absolutely brilliant, and I am very, very excited about this. Ooh, and it's got a map. I love a map. Why do we all love maps? Like, do you guys love a map in a book? I don't know what it is. Okay, let's read the first line. Ascension Parish, 2009. It was during the Thompson Delacroix wedding, Karen's first week on the job, that a cottonmouth, measuring the length of a Cadillac, fell some 20 feet from a live oak on the front lawn, landing like a coil of rope in the lap of the bride's future mother-in-law. Ooh. I don't think that's a 5-star first line to me, but it's very intriguing. I'm so excited about that book. Okay, shall we dive into... let's dive into some historical fiction. I've got 4 historical fiction books that I want to share with you. The first is one that I just got today. I convinced Barry to go out to Value Village on my lunch hour, and I picked up The Home for Unwanted Girls by Joanna Goodman. This takes place in Quebec. So this is a Canadian book. I don't think it's by a Canadian author. It is. Joanna Goodman lives in Toronto. That's super exciting. So this follows a woman in the 1950s. She's a very young woman. I think she's a teenager. And she falls pregnant out of wedlock. Her parents convince her to give the baby up, and her baby, Elodie, is raised in the orphan system. And she finally, she's treated, I think, quite badly in that system, and then she finally gets free herself over time. And I think it's about the mother and daughter finding themselves again, or finding each other again, I should say. It sounds good. I've heard good things about it. It's not like an easy subject matter, but I think it will be an easy read, if that makes any sense to you at all. It makes sense to me. So let's read the first line for The Home for Unwanted Girls. Prologue, 1950. He who plants a seed plants life. I don't think that's a 5-star first line. Next is a book that is a 2020 release, and I got it at a Value Village. What? I guess people just read books and then pass them on. I guess I do that too. Anyway, this is The Black Swan of Paris by Karen Robards. This is World War II historical fiction, if you can't already guess. This follows a woman in Paris who is like a very famous singer. However, she doesn't go unscathed from the war. Her mother is rounded up and taken by the Gestapo, and she knows that she is next. I think she has Jewish heritage. In any case, she decides that she really wants to try and save her mom, and also she's trying to elude the Nazis and what have you, and it's her experience, and it sounds like a lot of fun. So I say a lot of fun, and it's about World War II. I don't know. Let's read the first line. Chapter 1, May 15th, 1944. When the worst thing that could ever happen to you had already happened, nothing that came after really mattered. I like that first line. I don't think it's a 5-star, but maybe 4. Next is another World War II historical fiction. Is anybody surprised? Not me. This is The Song of the Jade Lily by Christy Manning. This is a chunkster. Oh my goodness. Okay. 450-ish pages. Not that long, but it looks really big. This is one of those books that go back and forwards in time. I love when books do that. We meet two young girls in Shanghai in 1939. One of them has always grown up in Shanghai, and the other is a Jewish refugee. And it is about their experience moving into the war, experiencing World War II. And then we flash forwards to 2016, and we meet a girl who is flying to Australia to be with her grandparents. I think her grandfather is dying. Now, her grandmother, I think, is one of those women from 1939, and she learns the history of her family's past. It sounds so wonderful. It does sound so, so wonderful. So let's read the first line of the Song of the Jade Lily. Prologue, Shanghai, October 14th, 1944. This was the first time she had broken Papa's rules. I don't think that's a 5-star first line. Might be a 5-star read. And last for historical fiction is a book that I already had, but I found a prettier copy. And that's The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. Now, here's the funny thing about this. The other copy that I had that I've already gifted to one of my dear friends, Sandra, that was a finished copy. I got this home and realized it was actually an ARC. I didn't mean to buy an ARC. I know you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to sell ARCs. You're not supposed to buy them. I didn't mean to. I just saw that it had like deckled edges and like was a nice big size, and I was like, that's great, that's what I want. So Colson Whitehead's The Underground Railroad. This is about the Underground Railroad, but Colson Whitehead reimagines this story where there is an actual railroad, and we follow a young woman who is enslaved and is trying to get away and trying to escape slavery. It sounds wonderful. I adored the Nickel boys so much. So when I saw a prettier version of this, I was like, yes, please. Yes. So let's read the first line of The Underground Railroad. The first time Caesar approached Cora about running north, she said no. I do like that first line, but I don't know whether it's an actual 5-star first line for me. Okay, shall we move into a lot of nonfiction? Yes, we shall. The first nonfiction book I want to talk to you about, you're going to laugh when you see it. This is The Lazy Genius Way. Embrace what matters, ditch what doesn't, and get stuff done. This was kindly sent to me by Penguin Random House Canada. They are so kind to me. When this was very recently released, I read the blurb on the back about what it's about, and I was like, I need that. So if you are moms, I find in motherhood there's a lot of pressure to do certain things, to have your kids on all of these different activities, to like feed them organic food, to like do all of these things and be the best mom that you can be. And like, I find it extremely stressful, and stressful just thinking about it. I have no interest in participating in a lot of that. And this book is for me, the women in the world who just don't really want to participate in it, who ask like, well, why are we doing this again? And I think it's really going to make me laugh and make me feel better, and also give me some tips on how to like simplify my life and just do things as a mom that actually matter and not get caught up. I'm really excited to read this. I just think it's gonna help me out a lot. Okay, so now we need to read the first line of The Lazy Genius Way. Okay, the foreword. Some moments, such as weddings, births, graduations, and proposals, carve a deep groove in our memories because they mark our lives in a significant way. Not a 5-star first line. I wasn't really expecting a 5-star first line, if I'm being honest. Next is a book that I found at a Value Village, and I was able to take it off of my Amazon wish list. Oh my gosh, how did this happen? I found Know My Name by Chanel Miller. Now, Chanel Miller was raped by Brock Turner. We all know how his conviction turned out. He was in jail for like a hot second and then released. And Chanel Miller was known as Jane Doe for a very long time. But over time, she wrote this book and she came out and told her story, which is an incredibly brave thing to do considering rape culture and considering so much of the time victims are blamed and victims are told to be quiet. And she said, "No, I won't be quiet and you can sit down." And I admire this woman so much. I saw her on Oprah being interviewed by Oprah, and she was outstanding, and I am very eager to read her words and hear her story and support her. I have chills. I'm very proud of that woman. Okay, let's read the first line from this beautiful, courageous woman. Introduction. The fact that I spelled subpoena, S-U-H-P-E-N-A, may suggest that I am not qualified to tell this story. Oh, that's interesting first line. I wouldn't say that it's a 5-star first line, but very interested in reading this, of course. Okay, now let's move on to a book that I was kindly gifted. This is stamped from the beginning, The Definitive History of Racist Ideas in America by Ibram X. Kendi. This was sent to me by Kara, who is so nice to send this my way. I'm so grateful. She wrote, "April, I know you've been having problems with racist YouTube trolls, truth, and I wanted to send you a gift to brighten your day. Thanks for all you're doing. So many of us love and care about you. FM from Kara." Thank you so much, Kara. Like, oh my gosh, I have felt so embraced by you guys, and I don't think I fully realized that, like, I really was being just trolled. At one point I was like, oh my gosh, what's happening to all of my subscribers? Not all of them, but like, what, like, who are these people saying some of these things? And I realized over time I was being majorly trolled by people who are like trolls basically for a living. In any case, the fact that Kara sent this to me was so kind of her. I'm very eager to read this. This is such an important story because history, American history, Canadian history, has not been told entirely truthfully. And this really forces you to read history the way it actually is. So this is really about Black history. And I think it uses four American figures, or 5 American figures, and tells their stories, but from the perspective of the Black perspective, essentially. Okay, so let's read the prologue, the first line of the prologue. Every historian writes in and is impacted by a precise historical moment. I wouldn't say that's a 5-star first line, but I mean, it's gonna be genius. I follow him on Instagram and I adore him. Okay, moving right along. Here's a book that I unhauled and then rehauled. This is what happens sometimes when you unhaul books. I realized that I like Erik Larson's historical political nonfiction. So this is In the Garden of Beasts by Erik Larson. It's love, terror, and an American family in Hitler's Berlin. So I think we follow an American family. I don't know if he was a diplomat or what, but it's 1933, and it shows the rise of the Nazi Party and this family's experience living there amidst this rise. It sounds fascinating to me. I read, oh gosh, The Splendid and the Vile, about Winston Churchill during the Blitz, and I was blown away by it. So, okay, let's read the first line of In the Garden of the Beasts. Once, at the dawn of a very dark time, an American father and daughter found themselves suddenly transported from their snug home in Chicago to the heart of Hitler's Berlin. That sounds really, really great. I wouldn't say it's a 5-star first line, but it's really, really interesting. Maybe I'll read that in November. Okay, moving on. The next 2 books were kindly sent to me by Saliha. She totally spoiled me and did not have to do this, but I appreciate it so much. She sent me 2 books. She wrote, I love your videos. I also wanted to say thank you for speaking up. I really want to read these books, so I figured, I really want you to read these books, so I figured I might as well get them for you. Give you more ammunition for your channel. A fellow Canadian. Thank you so much, Saliha. So she sent me 2 books. First, we will talk about White Rage. This is the unspoken truth of our racial divide. So this is, again, a history book about the Black experience. And I think she's specifically writing about post-Civil War to just after the election of America's first Black president, and explores white rage in response almost to those 2 things. And I think this is going to be fascinating. I've only heard good things about this. So let's read the first line of White Rage. Kindling. Although I first wrote about white rage in a Washington Post op-ed following the killing of Michael Brown and the subsequent uprising in Ferguson, Missouri, the concept started to germinate much earlier. I wouldn't say that's a 5-star first line. It is the prologue after all, but it does sound, of course, brilliant and something that I need to read as soon as possible. And she also sent me a book that has been on my radar forever. It's called It's Not About the Burqa. This is a compilation of essays by Muslim women. It says on the back, when was the last time you heard a Muslim woman speak for herself without a filter? I am so excited about this book. I so want to hear these voices. Way back in the day when I was at Queen's, I took a religion course about the Quran, and it was taught to me by a Muslim woman, and she was really, really lovely. And I feel like it's been since then that I've like picked any literature up about Muslim women and their experience. So all that to say, I'm very excited about this. Thank you so, so much for sending it. So here's the first line, the introduction. In January 2016, the Daily Telegraph reported on a private conversation in which David Cameron said he considered Muslim women to be traditionally submissive. That's interesting. I wouldn't say it's a 5-star first line. I think it's harder for nonfiction to be 5-star first lines. I don't know why, but a little bit. But it looks amazing. Thank you so much. Oh my God, I'm so spoiled. Okay, 2 more nonfiction and then we'll move on. Total shift. I got We Are Never Meeting in Real Life, essays by Samantha Irby, who is a Black, I think, American woman, and it's meant to be hilarious. I watch the Anna Edit. She's a beauty YouTube channel. I adore her so much. And she recently read this and I think her other book and just like could not stop laughing. So this is the story of her and like little essays about her life. An ill-fated pilgrimage and romantic vacation to Nashville. A bachelorette application gone awry. Like, I need to pick this up when I need a pick-me-up or just want a good laugh because. So, shall we read the first line of We Are Never Meeting in Real Life? So, the first essay is my bachelorette application. I am squeezed into my push-up bra and sparkly, ill-fitting dress. I wouldn't say it's a 5-star first line, but I'm super excited to read that. Okay, this is the last non-fiction book that I picked up at a Value Village, and this is The Last Castle by Dennis Tiernan. This is the epic story of love, loss, and American royalty in the nation's largest home. So this is about the history and the building of America's biggest home. I guess this man, George Vanderbilt, decided that he wanted to like take a little something from Europe and build this ginormous mansion. It is a 175,000 square foot chateau. He built it in North Carolina, and I think he dies and his wife, Edith, has to take over and take care of it. And it's about this building over the Jazz Age, over the 2 world wars, and all of the people who visited it, like Edith Wharton and F. Scott Fitzgerald. And I just want to know, and it sounds so interesting. So let's read the first line of The Last Castle. Okay, so chapter 1, A Winter's Tale. That was the year she started spending her winters in New York again. I don't know what, that's not at all a 5-star first line. Oh my gosh, I'm really hoping that I'll like it, but I didn't really get that first line. Maybe I don't understand it if I continue to read it. Okay. We are moving right along. I've got 2 fantasy, I don't know where to classify this. I think this is 2 fantasy books. You will let me know if I'm categorizing it wrong. The first is The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert. I think this is a series, if I'm not mistaken. And oh my god, this cover. Oh, look at this cover. Okay, stop. This is about 17-year-old Alice Proserpine. Her mother and her have lived on the road for most of her life. But when her grandmother, I should say, dies alone on her estate, the Hazelwood, she goes to the estate. And this woman had been an author of these very dark fairy tales. And I think she leaves a note that says, "Don't go into the Hazelwood." And then obviously she goes into the Hazelwood because what else are you supposed to do when someone tells you not to? I think it sounds very dark and very magical, and I'm super excited to pick that up. That'd be a good one for the winter, I think. Oh, I have to read the first line. I nearly forgot. April. Okay, let's read the first line. Althea. Oh, first of all, her name is Althea. My niece's name is Althea. I like her already. Althea Proserpine is raising her daughter on fairy tales. I wouldn't say it's a 5-star first line, but I do like it a lot. Next, and again, is this fantasy? I think so. This is Circe by Madeline Miller. I have heard such good things about this book as well as The Song of Achilles. I find the myth and legend of Circe to be quite interesting myself. She's essentially a witch, and she meets Odysseus, I think, at some point, and like tries to keep him for a while. And it's her story in the midst of the Odyssey, from her perspective. And it's blurred by Anne Patchett, who says, an epic spanning thousands of years. That's also a keep you up all night page turner. And that just sounds wonderful to me. So let's read the first line of Circe. I'm really eager for this because I think Julie from A Girl in a Book read A Song of Achilles and just adored it. So I know that's not this, but it's the writing. Chapter 1. When I was born, the name for what I was did not exist. Ooh, I love that first line. That's a 5-star first line to me. I loved that. Also, the cover. I was so happy to find that. And we're ending with 2 children's literature books, middle grade books that I just think sound lovely. The first is Beyond the Bright Sea. So this is about a very young girl named Crow. She's 12 years old and she spent her entire life on an isolated piece of Elizabeth Island in Massachusetts. She was abandoned when she was a baby and set adrift in a small boat when she was like freshly born. And she essentially has been raised by a man named Osh, who rescued her, and then also Miss Maggie, who is a neighbor of theirs. And she's always been curious about the world around her, but one night a mysterious fire appears across the water and she has all sorts of questions and all sorts of mysteries start being unfurled essentially, and it sounds really lovely. I am trying to pick up more middle grade for Nora. Okay, so let's read the first line of Beyond the Bright Sea. My name is Crow. Okay, not a 5-star first line. So last but not least is The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. This is a very magical sounding story about a boy named Bod, and he is being raised in a graveyard, and he's being raised by ghosts in the graveyard. I don't really know much more about it than that, but it sounds like a lot of fun. And yeah, I think I'm trying to pick up more middle grade for Nora, even though she's only 1. But you know. Okay, so let's read the first line. First of all, it's beautiful. Chapter 1, How Nobody Came to the Graveyard. There was a hand in the darkness and it held a knife. That's a 5-star first line, 100%. Okay, so those are all of the books that I hauled, that I have for this haul. I'm very excited about them all. Let me know in the comments below if you've read any of these and what you thought of them. I hope you liked them. Again, in the description box below, you can check me out on Goodreads. You can check me out on Instagram. There's my Amazon wish list, my Patreon. Hang out with me. I hope you're doing really well, and I will talk with you soon. Bye!